Hi everyone, today I wanted to do a little fun crafty tutorial with you guys about how I make polymer clay charms for my dolls. So this was requested after my last video, which was called the Thrifted Gifts Transformation. And in that video I had made some polymer clay charms for my strawberry shortcake dolls. I made strawberry clip and a cake charm on a necklace. And since I showed a bit of me making those, I got a few requests to make a more in-depth tutorial. So in today's video, I'm going to go over the basics of polymer clay charms, just like the things you'll need, why you need them, different like basic techniques, and how you can assemble those charms into something that you can use for your dolls. That being said, I just want to say that I'm not a master with polymer clay by any means. I've only been doing this for a few years and clay was never my personal strong suit, but it's just something fun that I do, and these are really basic, easy techniques. If you are more advanced, then you probably won't find this video helpful at all, but if you just want to try something different, if maybe you have a design idea in your head for earrings or hair clip and you want to make the charm for it, this might help you out. I recommend looking up different YouTube videos all about polymer clay and the supplies you'll need. That's what I did when I wanted to make charms. I watched a few videos, and even if I didn't make those exact charms, I got ideas for how to handle the clay and different texturing techniques. Do research, look around, get ideas. It's really easy if you just Google polymer clay charm. You can see people's ideas. That's actually where I got the idea for Angel Cake's charm. I really liked watching, I believe the name of the channel was Sugar Charm Shop. Her videos were really helpful to me. I mean, she's really crazy advanced. Her stuff looks very realistic, and my charms don't even come close to that. But watching someone really good with clay helped me see just those little things they did, how they manipulated it, and different techniques they did for texturizing and coloring it. I'm going to show you some of my charms that I have, the various ones that I have. I have more. I have pictures of them all, I'm pretty sure, in my arts and crafts album on Flickr. If you want to see those, I have hair clips and necklaces and earrings and things like that I've made. But I'm going to show you a sampling of some of my older ones and some of my more recent ones and some of the simpler ones and some of the more complicated ones. Without further ado, let's get to it. So these are some of my dolls from display that I grabbed to show you. They're charms. So this is the one I made in the last video on Angel Cake here. It's a rainbow cake, I think. And then we have Poopsie Pets Lexa over here, who has peanut hair clips. If you're wondering why they're peanuts, it's because her pet elephant poops peanuts, and I just came up with that idea and I thought it'd be really cute. Baker Sophina, I made her a little cupcake. This was one of the very first charms I ever made. So this is actually painted and it's not made with colorful clay. Painter Kellen, also one of my first charms. I made her a little painter's palette. Hello, my name is Raya, who probably has my favorite charms. These are really oversized cheeseburgers. I know they're patently too large, but I don't mind really tacky doll jewelry. So bear in mind, you can use your own personal filter when making charms. This is Sleepover Party Sasha. She has pizza earrings, and then I have the rest of the line over here. So Jade has little cloud earrings to match the cloud guy on her shirt. Yasmin has these little frog charms, and Chloe has ice cream cones with. So now that you've gotten an idea of the kinds of charms I've made, I'm going to show you my very basic supplies, and these are the 3 dolls I'm going to be making things for. I chose my beautiful hair Ariel. I'm going to make her a hair clip because I'm always borrowing her stand for hair videos, so I thought I would make her something so she's not mad at me all the time. And then I'm going to make another one of those cake charms on a necklace for my cotton candy style Avery doll because I think it would look really cute with her outfit. I'm going to be making some hair clips for Lindsay. Not totally decided what I'm going to make. The supplies you're going to need. There's 2 different types of clay that you can use. Mine are the Sculpting brand, but for this, ideally, I recommend polymer clay. And what polymer clay is, it's an oven bake charm, if you don't know what that is. It's basically something that does not dry out unless you put it in the oven at the recommended temperature and cook it. So what I like about polymer clay, as opposed to air dry clay, is that it doesn't dry out. I have had this clay for about 6 years now, and I've had this clay for about 2 years, and it's still as good as the day as it was when I bought it. And I also feel like it doesn't crack or anything like air dry clay will. Sometimes you can make really cool things out of like Play-Doh or air dry clay and it just cracks and salts, which is no bueno. Here I have a multi-pack. I got both packs of my clay at, I believe, Michael's, and they're kind of expensive. You can buy individual bars of different colors, but when I first got really into making charms, I wanted to get like a variety pack. Now, I think this retailed for either like $20 or $30, which is really expensive, but I got it on a sale for half off, so that's why I bought it. I believe it was either $10 or $15, I don't remember anymore. And it comes with a wide range of colors here, and like some of them are metallic, some of them are more matte. And then this is the kind that my dad bought me. So actually, the story of how I got into making polymer clay charms is that I wanted to make a Speed the Turtle for my custom Odette doll. I don't have him anymore, and I'll explain why in a minute, but I made like a big pet for her basically out of this plain clay, and I painted it. So this is white clay. So the nice thing about the colored clay is that of course you can use the color straight out of the package as is, or you can mix them together, and that means that like once you're done baking you don't have to paint anything unless you want to add extra details. But if you buy the plain white clay, you'll have to paint it, which that cupcake I showed you on Sophina is painted. That's kind of like an extra step that you can avoid if you buy the colored clay. Some of the other things you'll need: obviously a baking sheet, excuse this is really old and grubby, and some foil. I like to keep any bits of clay I mixed up special in just a container. And then for like frosting, icing, sauce, anything drippy like paint, you saw like some samples of it over on my counter. There are two different types of like liquidy Sculpey clay. So this is translucent liquid Sculpey. So this is like a translucent in color, so it dries clear, is very runny and watery, and this makes a great like, I think this makes great like frosting and sauce, and it's really easy to mix. And then this is Bacon Bond, so this is kind of like a similar thing, but it's thicker and chunkier, and it doesn't make a very good sauce. This is better like if you're just trying to attach two pieces of clay. So again, this does not dry out unless you put it in the oven. I don't remember how much money these were. I think they were like $4 or $6 for a bottle, but you don't need much at all. If you want to attach your two pieces, like two parts of polymer clay, the Bacon Bond works really well, but you can also use the TLS, the translucent liquid Sculpey, if you want to. I keep mine in like little plastic bags in storage because they tend to like ooze out, as you can see. And then this is the important part. These are the Sculpey clay glazes. So I have a gloss glaze and a satin glaze. You do not want to use any random paint sealers or glosses or any kind of finish on your polymer clay. I have learned this time and time again the hard way. In the past, I've used just like plain old Mod Podge or like the spray Mod Podge. The problem is that there's something in polymer clay that reacts with those sealers over time, and it gets sticky. And by sticky, I mean sticky, and everything will stick to it. So that Speed the Turtle I made for Odette is no longer, because over time he became really sticky, no matter how many times I tried to clean him, and everything stuck to him, like my cat's hair, any dust. I don't remember them costing too much. Again, I bought this stuff in increments, so I didn't buy it all in one go. I bought it over the span of like, a few years. You can buy tools if you want. I only have 2 sets of tools here. You don't have to like buy special tools, and I do recommend getting at least some kind of blade to cut the polymer clay evenly. Mine has a guard on it right now. These sets can be kind of expensive in my opinion at craft stores. They're usually like anywhere from $6 to $12, but you can use things like toothpicks, crumpled up bits of foil, really anything to make a texture on an object. I use other things too. I just bought one of these like measuring things for sewing as like a little tray to work on so that the polymer clay doesn't get dusty. The problem with polymer clay is that when you're making it, even if you wash your hands and you clean your surface, it's kind of unavoidable that dust and like hair and things will get in your clay. And then for coloring the frosting or like sauce, you will need to scrape soft pastels. Now the key with these is you want them to be non-toxic. You're going to bake these in your oven. You don't want any poisonous fumes coming off into your oven. So mine are non-toxic. Here, I actually did not buy these for the purpose of clay. I already had these for drawing. I got them at Michael's for like $5. years and years and years and years ago. You might want like beads to use as like sprinkles and things. So if you're making any kind of like earrings or necklaces, you'll obviously need like your basic findings, you know, chain, your tools. And if you're making hair clips, you will need different like clips obviously, and a hot glue gun to attach everything. You can use any kind of glue you want, I just prefer the hot glue. So those are the basic supplies. Step 1 is to preheat your oven to the temperature on your package. So mine is recommended at 275. So this is going to preheat while I make the charms. I'm going to start with the rainbow cake charm on angel cake over here. It's actually really simple. It mostly boils down to like texturizing it that makes it look fancy. So these are actually some like extra rainbow bar scraps that I had in my thing, but I'm not going to use them. I'll make the bar for you so you can see how I did it. So these are the colors that I want to use, so you know, rainbow colors. My blade. I thought about the thickness I wanted each section to be. Now, since I'm making this charm for Avery, I can technically make it a little bit bigger. I'm just going to slice like a thin little section of each color. So now that I have all of my pieces cut, I'm going to arrange them in the rainbow formation, roughly. And yes, obviously this like stack is pretty thick. What I like to do is get it pretty even, and then I'm going to like squish it. And then I'm going to take my blade and I'm going to cut like the cake piece I want out of it. So a pretty good size. So it doesn't matter if like the edges aren't perfect. So that is how I made like a little bar of cake. Obviously, if you look at my completed charm here on angel cake, you can see it has like a cake-like texture. So what I did to achieve that is I used my needle tool here. Use a toothpick if you wanted something that's kind of like sharp and pointy. And I literally just roughed up the surface to make that like rough looking cake. Now you can do the back if you want, but it's probably going to get covered in icing anyways. I'm just going to do it a little bit. And for additional texture, I have this little ball of tinfoil that I can kind of poke. And this was great when I was making the peanut charms for Lexa. I felt like it really added the right roughness. Now that we have a realistic looking texture, we have to make the frosting. Depending on what color you want to use, you'll want to pick out the chalk pastel of choice. I'm going to need my chalk pastel, my translucent liquid Sculpey, and a razor blade, or something sharp to scrape the pastel. So again, please make sure that your pastels are non-toxic. That's really important. And I'm just going to like run this blade down the side of my chalk pastel. Since last time my color was like a little more translucent than I wanted it to be, I'm actually going to add a bit of like yellow to kind of make it creamier. I'm going to mix my two colors together first of all, and I'm using a toothpick for this, but you can use like whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm going to take my translucent liquid Sculpey and I'm going to get a generous amount, and then I'm just going to take my toothpick and I'm going to mix it all together. So once you feel you have the right texture, you're just going to put the frosting on the piece of cake here. I'm going to use my toothpick to kind of apply it. And this is where you kind of want to think about like what real frosting looks like how it's kind of imperfect. It's not like a totally flat surface. This is where you want to insert the eye pin if you're going to be using this as earrings or as jewelry or as a necklace, any kind of jewelry where you would want to attach this to a chain or anything. You will want to add an eye pin, so you can use like a pre-made eye pin and just cut it down, or you can make your own. I keep scrap wire, so I'm just going to make my own eye pin, and then I'm going to make it kind of short, and I'm just going to insert it where I want this to hang from. So obviously, if you have to keep in mind the width of the item you're inserting the head pin into, the eye pin into. You do not want to use a super long piece, because if your clay is thin, because it'll obviously poke out. The nice thing about this frosting is it's going to act as like a glue once this bakes, and it's going to cement this little guy in place. But if it was, say, something that didn't have frosting and you were concerned about the pin sliding out, which sometimes it does, you could add a little bit of Bacon Bond or TLS on the pin itself and then stick it in. But if you forget to do that, it's not a big deal. You can just put a little super glue on the pin and stick it back in if it does fall out. That I want to add here are the sprinkles. So for my original charm, I used little just balls of clay, but I didn't really like the way that looked. So I'm going to be using an assortment of like little beads. So the translucent liquid Sculpey that we're using here for the frosting, like I said, is going to act like a glue. And once it's baked, these little beads are actually going to stick to the surface. I'm just going to transfer this guy onto my little thing here, and before I put this in the oven, I want to make my other charms. Next thing that I want to make is a little starfish hair clip for Ariel. So I'm going to use just yellow clay, because that's what I feel like. And again, I'm going to use my little cutting tool, and I'm just going to cut a little section here. I'm going to take my little slab here of clay, and I'm going to cut mine into like 5 equal sections. I'm going to kind of roll these so they're rounder. And once I've done that, I'm going to place them in a like star-like formation. And if you want, you can kind of make like a little ball out of yellow clay and flatten it a bit, and then just kind of like place it over the part where they meet, and then just to smooth it out. And just make sure that the bottoms are nice and rounded. So once you kind of have your starfish in the shape that you want it, I'm kind of like curved mine a bit. This is where you want to texturize it to make it look like more realistic, more like it's spiny and stuff. So I'm just going to use some tin foil, and I'm going to take my little dotting tool, and I'm just going to press little indents. And then to bring out the texture, I shaved down a little bit of this orange pastel, and I'm going to dry brush it on and lightly pat it. This helps bring out some of like the rich detail and stuff. You could also bake the clay for like a few minutes before you do this. I'm just doing it right now. And then I'm going to place this guy on my baking sheet as well. And I'm not attaching any sort of binding on it because this is going to be a clip. I want to make Lindsay a clip. And I think I'm going to make it like a donut just because I like making doll food. So I actually already have this donut color made, and I'm just going to knead it until it gets nice and soft. Then I'm going to make it into a little ball and flatten it out a bit. And I'm going to take my little ball tool here and get in the center. And now that I'm satisfied with the shape, I'm going to make some frosting. I'm going to do some pink frosting to match the pink trim on Lindsay's coat. And I'm going to make this the same way I made the other frosting. So depending on the size of your clay and the type of clay you're using, the brand, that's going to determine how long you bake it. I usually bake things of this size for about 15 minutes. Basically it won't be soft anymore once it's done, but sometimes you can bake something for a few minutes so it's a little hard, so you can manipulate it better. So my charms are out of the oven. And I just want to say that it ended up taking me about 25 minutes to fully cure these charms. You have to be careful that you don't over bake the clay because it can burn, and I've had it burn before. Now luckily the charms it burned, I thought the way it turned out looked kind of cool. Like I had a pizza charm for one of my Moxie girls and it burned on the bottom, but it kind of looked like deep dish pizza or something. So just be aware of that. You want to keep an eye on it. But once you have had the clay in for like 10 or 15 minutes, if you feel like it still needs to be baked longer, then definitely check on it in like 5-minute increments. So I'm going to attach this little rainbow cake charm to a chain. Now I've already measured this to size, but basically you want to see like roughly how long you want it to be, keeping in mind the size of the charm. Some clasps, and I'm going to attach them with little mini jump rings. And then I'm going to take a slightly bigger jump ring that can slide up and down the chain. I'm going to attach it to my charm. And then I'm just going to kind of stick the chain through and close it up so you can see it can like slide up and down the chain. And we're going to put this on Miss Avery. Ta-da! I'll show you an up close of this at the end. So the next thing I'm going to make is the hair clip for Lindsay with a donut. So I have these like wide metal clips. You can get these kinds of clips in the craft section at places like Walmart, or you can get them in the hair section at places like Walmart. So I'm going to cover this with some ribbon first of all. And I'm using hot glue for this because I just prefer hot glue. And once I have this covered in ribbon, I'm just going to glue my donut. Like I said, you can use whatever kind of glue you want. I prefer hot glue because it dries quickly, but if I make a mistake, it peels off pretty easily. So I'm going to give that a second to cool before I put it in her hair. And then I'm just going to literally take this baby clip and attach the back of this starfish clip to it. It's important that if you're making clips, you want to make sure that like the backs are pretty like flat so that they'll fit on the clip. So I'm going to show you the final products. So this is the little hair clip with the donut that I made for Lindsay. And obviously, like ideally, I would have had like little balls to put in instead of beads that have little holes, but you know, I worked with what I had. And Lindsay says she likes it. And then we have Avery's cake charm. And I do really like the way the beads look as opposed to the little balls of clay I used last time. And Ariel's starfish clip. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you've never tried working with polymer clay, I hope that this was an easy tutorial to follow and maybe gave you some ideas. Honestly, I kind of make up things on the spot a lot of the time. I'm not like the best at planning ahead charms, but I think that's the fun of it. If you just learn some basic techniques, you can start making simple charms and then work your way up and start doing more advanced things. And if you want to make more realistic things with more detail, you definitely can. Obviously, for like my purposes, I kept these pretty simple and intentionally kind of fake looking. I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life. Say bye, Lindsay.